Dancing. Okay. Already starting out on a good note. Welcome to Class Act Chats, where I'm joined by a fellow cat behavior expert, and we discuss a topic related to cats, or cat behavior, or cat training, or cat care. Today, I'm joined by Misty Hampton, a certified cat behavior consultant, and we're going to talk about the cultural changes surrounding cats and people's views of cats and people's relationships with their cats. You're going to get some cool tips on how to take care of your own cat. But first, let's hear Misty's answer to a very important question. Misty, welcome to my den. Welcome to Class Act Chats. I am excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. So excited to talk with a fellow cat pro.
It's gonna be fun. We have a really cool topic today. We're talking about cultural attitudes about cats and how we're shifting people's viewpoints of cats from being a decorative pet to being these amazing, beautiful, fun, exciting creatures that we have dedicated our lives to. I want to start out asking you a little bit about yourself, but before we do that, I have one really, really, really important question that I'm not gonna lie, since I've met you, I've been dying to ask this. If you were a Pokemon trainer, what type of Pokemon would you train? Of course. You knew this was coming, like, come on.
Not until I sat here in this chair, but the moment you said you've been wanting to ask me, I'm like, oh crap, it's gonna be Pokemon.
You're like, it's Pokemon related.
Yeah, it was big when we were in elementary school. It was so annoying. My brother's name was Chansey, so we both got it like all the time.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Yeah, but at least she was Misty at least was a Pokemon trainer and was a main character.
Yeah, it wasn't like this giant pink egg thing, like...
Yeah.
Which, okay, like, philosophical question, like, Chansey's, like, is that hair? Like, I've never quite figured out what those are.
I don't know, they're Pokemon. They blur the lines between mammals and birds and food products, so who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that, like, we may just never quite understand.
But the question was gonna be, what kind of Pokemon would I train? Is that what it was gonna be?
Yes. Like, and is it water types?
Not exclusively water types.
Okay.
I do like a lot of water typed Pokemon. I tend to like Pokemon that look the most like actual animals. So things that look like foxes or cats, or count dragons in with like actual animals, so a lot of the dragon types, a lot of the, like seal and the ones related to that, anything that looks like an actual animal, not stuff that looks like an ice cream cone or a snowflake or, a non-living item.
See, I've always been partial to psychic types for some reason. Like, I really... And also, like, Meowstick, like, the like, psychic cat, I'm like, okay, like, you get
Pretty
me.
Cool.
And now, of course, I'm completely forgetting the name of the grass cat from the most recent games. Meowscarada, I think. Like, I was
yeah.
I like grass types, so I'm,
Okay.
partial to those, so...
I like the little one. I like Sprigatito, the little...
Sprigatito, that's... I was like... And like,
well, but it turns into Meowscarada. I don't like that one as much. It stands on 2 feet, and it looks like it's wearing a mask, and it looks more human and less cat-like, so I'm more partial to the tiny baby one.
I do prefer Sprigatito. Like, any cat-like creature I'm fine with, so...
Totally.
Okay, we've got that important topic out of the way. That itch has been scratched. We're good to go here. As I ask everyone who stops in here, who are you? Why are you here? Like, tell me about yourself and why people should trust you and that you know what you're talking about.
That's a fair question. So, I'm a teacher. I've always been interested in helping other people to learn more effectively, whether that's helping them with math tutoring or teaching science in a fun, hands-on way at the museum, or teaching them about animal behavior. And so when I got cats and I learned to get to know them and relate to them better, it seemed like a natural extension for me. I've always loved animals and I've always wanted to relate with them better. And so bringing together my teaching and training expertise with pursuing more knowledge in cat behavior just seemed like a natural fit.
It's amazing how much of like other skills from like other areas of our lives are really helpful with what we do with cats or what we do with our
Absolutely.
clients.
Yep.
You can't be good at like just one thing and expect to be successful, especially in something as variable as like behavior, where you have to understand every component of it.
There's a lot more to it than when I first got involved. When I first got involved, I had the attitude of like, oh, there should be more of this information widely available, and like, why should people have to pay so much money to get access to this information? And now on the other side of it, I'm like, oh, I understand now. There is a lot of good information that is publicly available, more so now than it was then. And we value the expertise and the hard work of our cat behavior professionals, and we shouldn't be asking them for free advice. It is really important that we support their livelihood because what they have to offer is valuable. But I didn't know that when I first started. I would have been one of those, let me ask a quick question kind of people.
They're never quick questions. I always think about, I am a professional, I need to give out like professional level advice, so I have a really hard time with questions where I'm expected to just summarize the answer, like a really complicated topic, down into a couple of sentences. I do not do well with that.
Yeah, I think in those kind of situations, it's appropriate to set expectations from the get-go and be like, hey, this issue that you're talking about is a pretty complex thing, and I could just give you a really quick answer, but that's not going to really address what's going on here. You're going to be best served by having an in-depth consultation with a professional.
Do you feel like any of that comes from how we have seen cats as being like secondary animals to dogs, that they're just kind of, again, decorative pets, or they're something that people just don't value quite as much? Do you think there's any component of that influencing people?
I think there's a couple big factors that come into that. And I think one of them is like people's genuine desire to understand better and not necessarily having a lot of resources, and they want to get that information from a good source. So I think that's a good thing. But I think there's also, working against us, the perception of cats being independent and aloof and low maintenance pets and basically decorative like a houseplant. And that perception trickling down makes it so we have like, people have some resentment about, why would I need to pay for and ask for behavior help for my cat? But if you were to wind back like 50 years, people probably had the same attitudes about dogs and horses. Why would I need to, maybe horses you'd have to go further, but like, why would I need to pay a professional to help me with this? Like, nobody else does that. And tutoring, if you wind back even further, a lot of people are like, why would you need a tutor? I never had a tutor. I didn't need that. When I was going through school, that wasn't available, so they should just suck it up and be able to do fine. There's more awareness now of everybody's needs, you know, kids' needs, dogs' needs, horses' needs, cats' needs, even plants.
I was gonna say, when you mentioned houseplants, I have a couple of houseplants that I swear they're needier than poutine and Prozac are. And if I get things like even slightly wrong, they're like, oh, we're dead.
It's not that those needs weren't there before, because those species of plants have always had those needs, and humans have always had similar kinds of needs for them to be nurtured and learn and grow, and animals of all species, right? I think there's more awareness of those needs, and it still needs to grow, but it's going in the right direction. People are realizing, oh, actually, it is normal to have needs, and it's not a bad thing for me to find tools and resources to help meet these needs and value this relationship with this individual rather than just treating them, as you say, as decoration.
Maybe it's the circles I hang around in, but I like to see that people are looking at their relationship with their cat or cats as being an actual relationship and not so much of a, you're my property, even though legally they are still considered property and all of that.
No, I think you're totally right. I think, and part of that, of course, is going to be the circles that we both, you know, affiliate with and spend our time talking with. But I do see that shift happening. People are more willing to, like, even in the language that you see on handouts from veterinary clinics, you know, they don't always use the word owner anymore. So it's changing a little bit. Words are important, and so it's kind of delicate to figure out what is the appropriate way to shift this, because we don't want to go so far to the extreme of, like, we're calling them our our fur babies or our children, but then we're trying to treat them as if they have the same exact needs as humans, and that doesn't really work. But I think it's absolutely moving in the right direction. Whereas if I talk to somebody from, a couple generations back and I talk about people having better relationships with their pets, they're going to be like, why the hell are you using the word relationship? You don't have a relationship with your cat. Are you gonna marry your cat? No. Relationship, that's not what it means. You have a relationship with your children. You have a relationship with your pets. It's definitely becoming a more mainstream thing, and people are beginning to value that more.
We're starting to see cats as more of a unique individual, which is super cool because people get to learn about their cats as opposed to trying to force things upon them. I've noticed, similar to what you've said, where a lot of places aren't trying to use the word owner as much. I've had a hard time because I always try and meet people where they're at, and if I can use language that they're using or that people would relate to, it's okay. But I'm also trying to shift away, and I've decided that I think cat parent is the term I've decided on. I've also tried to shift away from referring to cats as it, because I had someone who emailed me and was seeking services, and they referred to Zoloft as an it, and I did not appreciate that because he was my best friend, and I was like, no, he's not a object, he's a amazing, unique creature that brings a lot to my life. And so I've started trying to just shift that away. It provides our cats with a little bit more dignity and seeing them as living creatures as opposed to objects. They're not statues.
Even when I interact with wild animals and I'm pointing out birds to people in the field, I'm starting to trickle in more of the they and them pronouns instead of defaulting to he or little guy or it. Because it just feels more like I'm recognizing their sentient beingness, not humanity, because they're not human. And it's not because the squirrel cares whether I call them, he, it, she. Squirrel doesn't care, as long as I leave nuts in the backyard. It affects how I perceive them and how I think about them and how I interact with them. That's why I call my business Fellow Creatures pets, because we so often talk about humans and animals and it's us versus them. It doesn't need to be that way because we're all animals. We all have the same types of needs, but we also need to recognize the individuality. And I think so often people who've grown up with cats for generations, they've gotten used to what was normal for the cats that they grew up with. And then they get a cat who is different for whatever reason, who has a little bit different needs, and they think that there's something wrong with that cat because that cat won't use the same litter box that these ones did. And so there must be something wrong with this cat because they have different needs. And I think that's what still needs to shift. But I think it's moving in the right direction.
I think a lot of people get used to, especially if they've gotten really lucky and had cats that just fit with them, that they just mesh really well, and then they have a cat that is different and you actually have to pay attention to your cat. You can't get away with just leaving them alone at home for a weekend. That throws people off. We all probably experience a little bit of that when we lose a cat or cats and then we get a new cat, where it is kind of an adjustment.
Yeah, especially when they have the expectation, that cats are all the same, or that they all have the same personality, or that maybe they only have two personalities. They're friendly or they're shy, or they're sociable or aloof, and those are the only two categories they can imagine that cats would have. We've accepted it as normal for dogs, and we've accepted it as normal for kids. There are a lot of families that'll have one kid or two kids where the mainstream school system works great for them, and they're doing well, and then they have a new kid in their family who has different needs, and they don't freak out and go, we can't keep this child because this child has different needs. They go, no, what does this child need to be successful? Whether that's a different educational program or medication or a different diet or what do they need? That's the part that we need to normalize about cats. Cats are individuals and they don't just come in two flavors.
Do you think people are shifting the way that they see the emotions that cats experience as we start to understand them more? I still hear a lot of people who they think that cats are being spiteful or they're seeking revenge on them. And at the same time, I see a lot of people who are recognizing that cats can form complex bonds with us and that they'll be attached to us.
I think we sort of see a little bit of a pendulum effect. We see people who say like, oh, they can't have complex emotions, and then we see like, oh, their emotions are just like ours. And so they feel jealous, they get spiteful, they do naughty things that they know they're not supposed to. And they do it just to piss me off. And it's like, okay, pause. Like, I want to meet you where you're at, and I want to course correct so that you can see things more from the cat's perspective. I'm not going to shut you down and tell you that everything you just said was wrong, but...
And,
yeah, like, I'm glad you're recognizing that your cat has an emotional experience. It may not be exactly the same as your emotional experience. What we do know is that when you observe this, then this tends to happen next, and you don't like this outcome. What can we shift? But yeah, it's a slower conversation, I think, for sure. I've worked with some clients who think that their cat peeing outside the litter box is naughty, you know, and from our perspective, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if your 10-year-old kid saw that the bathroom was occupied and decided to pee on the couch, yeah, that would be naughty because they probably know that that's not an okay behavior. But the cat doing it, they don't have any sense of right or wrong. They just know that when they've done stuff like that in the past, and you walk into the room, that the next thing that happens is you yell at them and they don't know why, and they get freaked out, and then they go and they find somewhere secret to pee instead, and you wonder why your house smells like cat pee.
They're amoral. They're not immoral, they're amoral.
Right.
They don't have morality. But
you can certainly learn a lot from them.
There's a lot of things that cats can teach us. You look at how loving they are even when we do things that are terrible to them. That I look at the cats that have been declawed and they are still really attached to the people that decided to do that to them. And it's like, you know, if you really understood this, they are just so forgiving. Despite the cats' reputation for being these immutable creatures that just kind of do whatever they want, they really are a lot more flexible than we give them credit for.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people say that training a cat is different than training a dog because cats don't put up with our meow. And I think to some extent that's true, but they're a lot more forgiving than people think. They do definitely form that bond with you. They'll definitely tolerate some sloppy training. What they don't do well with is punishment, and they can't really hide those feelings. They get scared and they run away. Whereas with a dog, maybe they would hide those feelings until you see some repercussions later on. They're not immoral creatures of darkness, and I kind of wish we would stop spreading all these popular cultural images of cats having dreams of world domination or stuff like that, because I mean, it's kind of cute, it's kind of funny, but also it kind of harms cats' reputation and makes them seem like they're villains, and they're most definitely not. The only way in which I think they could align with villains is that they're misunderstood.
I will fully admit I do make jokes about poutine and Prozac wanting to take over the world, but it's like mostly so that they can get snacks, which it's not
Legit.
an evil thing for them to want snacks. I want snacks. I love snacks. I do need to go officially on record. I love snacks. Snacks
Fair.
are my life.
Okay, I have
There
a
we
fun
go.
question for you, Joey. If you had
Ooh.
to eat one spoonful of any cat treat or cat food and not puke immediately thereafter, what would you eat?
There are these grass cat treats that they're basically they're like kind of like Cheetos textured, and they're just like cat grass. I would go with one of those because grass is kind of a neutral flavor. It tastes kind of earthy.
I like that.
There's freeze-dried pumpkin treats that I could get behind that one too. Obviously, you've been thinking about this. Have you been sampling cat treats?
I've done a bunch of experiments where the cats sampled them. I'm mostly vegetarian. I have texture issues, so I haven't eaten any cat foods. But that stuff you mentioned, that's like made from cat grass, I would totally be down for that. That or maybe greenies. I think I could get behind greenies.
Can I admit something kind of embarrassing?
Totally.
Do you know those empty gelatin capsules for cats that are chicken flavored? I don't think they have a really strong chicken flavor is what I'm going to say.
Well, at least you know that they don't taste like bitter and repulsive.
Which actually, that's another thing that I feel like we are getting better at and we're shifting our perspective on is things like taking care of our cats, getting medications into them, is that we're recognizing that cats have flavor preferences and that metronidazole or fluoxetine or gabapentin, like...
They taste bad, yeah.
It makes sense that your cat wouldn't like eating them. We're getting better at trying to help cats take medication easier. We still have a way to go with that.
I'm very passionate about cooperative care for cats, and I love seeing advances in fear-free care and low-stress handling and things like that. I make a lot of videos that kind of make fun of the way that we used to do things. I call them my silly humans videos. Have you seen any of those where I like try to force a pill down my husband Jesse's throat as if he was the cat? And then we made a video we released after that that was low stress ways to train your cat to take medication voluntarily. So it was like the 1 minute video of me shoving a pill in his mouth and him like biting me, and he's wearing a cat hat with little ears. So people would get what it was supposed to represent. And then the next video we released was like a 10-minute video on how to get your cat to take medication voluntarily. We're definitely moving things in the right direction, and I think we need as many cat influencers as possible making stuff like that.
And I think that like there's now tools like this one, which is one of the pill launchers that you can I'm not gonna lie, I think it's pretty easy to train your cat that this is a fun game. And it's shaped like a dinosaur. Like,
I love that.
Why would you not want to like use this with your cat? It's a dinosaur. It's fun. Do you think that any of the changes that we're seeing with cats and the broader cultural attitudes towards cats, and especially the force-free and the fear-free and the low-stress handling type of movements, do you feel that the dog training world that does seem to be shifting a little bit more towards positive reinforcement-based and force-free, and we're recognizing that that is more effective and it does benefit the humans as well to use those methods? Do you feel like any of that's influencing cats at all?
Definitely. I think hugely. And I think if you were to do a poll of people who are certified cat professionals of one sort or another, I would venture to say that probably 75% or more of them either came to the cat field as a specialty from dog behavior, or they went to the dog training world for resources and education. I think most of us have gotten a lot of our education and our resources from there, and that's what's pushing the industry forward.
I'm trying to see if I have my copy of Control Unleashed sitting nearby.
Yes, exactly.
I steal things from dog training all the time. I want to make a video at some point about taking dog stuff for cats, basically.
Some of our friends who are posting like agility challenges on social media, a lot of it comes from like how to train your dog or train your dog to do all these cool tricks. You can earn your trick title. Those are all for dogs, but you can absolutely apply them to cats. So I do think that that's influenced and certainly helped. What's more rare is to find someone who specializes in cats exclusively, who's been able to find enough resources and education without needing to draw from the dog training world. I think when you go to like select your profession online for like a Google business profile and stuff like that, I think Google Business Profile, when I created mine, it had cat trainer as an option, but most of the other places,
I'm listed as a cat trainer.
Most other places, like if you go to like file taxes, there's nothing for cat trainer.
I've had to say that I'm a dog trainer on some like forums more than a few times, and I don't really work with dogs that often. There's a lot of people who are seeking out more services and more products and more things for their cats, and there's definitely that like hunger out there to learn more about cats. We really are doing a better job of helping people recognize how cool cats are.
Right, and I think that it's just going to be one of those things where it's going to lag behind by a few years. And I think the important parts of the conversation we've kind of arrived at faster. Like I think it took the dog training industry longer to recognize that ultimately punishment doesn't have the intended effects, and that we're much better off by using an approach that first addresses the individual's needs and then looks at how can we humanely influence a change in their behavior.
I feel like we skipped over that part of it. Don't get me wrong, there are some people that I've seen out there that would be what I would describe as the equivalent of like a balanced trainer for cats, that they're very rare. I'm very glad that that is a rare quality, and there's some people who I feel like have a little bit too much of a tolerance for some things that are not super kind to the cats that are marketed as being humane. And I will say a lot of veterinarians seem to be catching on to, if you create a good experience for the cats, they don't have to fight them as much. It really does benefit us as humans to be kind to the cats and to take their needs into account. Do you have anything like really cool that you've trained a cat to do, or do you have anything that you love training cats to do that you want to just like casually brag about here?
When I first started training my cats, people always said it'd be easier if you could train them one-on-one, but I have 5 cats, and they're all eager to participate in training. So to start with one at a time, while it would have been easier for most people, it was a non-starter for me. So I actually started by training all of them at the same time. And my training sessions frequently look like anywhere between at least 2 up to 5 of the cats all on step stools in my living room or on bar stools in my kitchen, and we do training as a group all the time. It's the rare exception that I train only one cat at a time. And the one behavior that I'm most proud of, and I'm also proud of my partner Linus, so he's the cat partner that worked with me on this behavior. I trained him to get his butt shaved. So like a sanitary shave, because he's a long-haired cat. We had had some instances where he had, you know, some squishy poo on his rear end, and that's real gross. And he would be crying, and he didn't want to clean it. I don't blame him. But he also didn't want us wiping his rear end with a wet washcloth or using scissors to try to trim his hair. Both of those were not acceptable. So we ended up just trying my husband's like hair shaver, and Linus was shockingly okay with that. Like, it's an electric buzzing thing on his butt, and that was okay, whereas a washcloth and scissors were a no-go. So we worked together over the course of the next couple of months to develop a cooperative procedure where he can opt in and I can give him predictor cues and all this stuff, and I can shave his butt. He can even come to me and request it at times when he needs it, although usually we do it preventatively.
Can you explain for people who aren't familiar with what a predictor cue is, what that is? I love predictor cues. They're one of my favorite things to teach clients.
Totally. So like a predictor cue is just when you tell someone that something is coming so that they know to expect it. So like if you go to get a vaccine, the person who's giving you the shot says, "Okay, are you ready?" And you say, "Yes." And they say, "I'm giving you the shot now." That's a predictor cue. They're saying, "I'm doing it now." And so my predictor cue for Linus would be bottom, which means I'm gonna touch your bottom. And then he feels my hand on his rear end and he doesn't flinch or jump because he knows it's coming. Whereas if I was to just touch his rear end out of nowhere, that would not only be extremely rude, but it would be startling to him, and he would probably jump to the side or maybe flinch a little bit. So I need that predictor cue so that I can get him to know that it's coming and hold still so that I can then bring up the shavers and only shave the section that I want to and not accidentally shave half of my cat.
If I were to be like, Misty, we're about to have a cat rave, that would be a predictor cue for you?
Totally, totally.
Misty, we're about to have a cat rave. Done with cat rave. Enough whimsy. Enough whimsy.
Good luck
All
with that.
seriousness. One of the things I love about predictor cues is that they're so easy to train a cat. I basically just describe it to people as you just narrate what you're doing and you make it consistent. It doesn't have to be complicated. You just repeat it a lot. I feel like a lot of like what we do is just repetition, and then the cats are like, "Okay, cool, I'm really good at picking up on patterns. I got you."
The one thing for me that I differentiate between narrating and predictor cues is because I constantly have an internal dialogue going, and if I let all of that out when I'm training with my cats, then I'm pretty sure that it just turns into background noise and creates confusion in their learning process. So I try to filter my narration a little bit.
That's a good point. Yeah, it isn't like you aren't actually narrating.
Maybe it's an abbreviated narration.
Yeah, that's a good way. The TLDR version of narrating.
Yes, exactly. As opposed to the constant rolling monologue that's going to create the confusion in their training. I've done that before where I'm consistent about my inconsistency, and then I get very messy results. And my cats are, forgiving, and they go with it because they're getting treats, but I end up with very messy behavior. So like, for example, I trained my cats to step on the back of a chair or on a bed frame to stick out their nails for an easier nail trim. And then I say paw, and I touch their paw with the scissors, and I push down on a claw, trim, and I give them a treat. And that was easier to do with the other cats because Jessie can give them a treat while I push on the paw and trim the nails. Pearl is afraid of Jessie. So my cat Pearl is very scared of literally everything in the universe except for me and her best friend Abigail, who's one of our other cats. So she's afraid of everything except for me and Abigail. And so Jessie comes in to give her treats and she's like, nope. So we've needed to work on just her and me, which means that I'm like holding the treat and the nail trimmers in the same hand and trying to touch her paws, and it got very messy. And she would get in the habit of like grappling hook into my hand to try to steal the churu tube and lick from it. And at first I was like, okay, this is fine. I'll just trim your nails while you're grappling my hand because I see them really easily while you're digging them into my flesh. But then I was like, this is not an ideal habit. And she would start to scream meow to demand treats, which at first it was cute, but she would go until she ran out of breath. So we've got a cat that's screaming and clawing me to try to get her nails trimmed, not because she's afraid, but because she's so eager for the treats. And I'm like, I need to start this fresh. So now I'm doing what I'm calling raptor training. And I show her my arm and I have a thick sweater on, and I'll present the nail trim scissors and I'll say step up, and she steps up onto my arm, leans forward to get the treat out of my hand, and so then her nails come out, and we're gonna work up to where I can hopefully have the churu on like a little extending arm like you would for a microphone, and so she'll get the churu from a lick mat that's coming from the extending arm, and I'll be able to use my hand to more effectively trim her nails, get her back onto the chair, get her back onto the bed frame like she was in the past. But we needed a fresh start, so that was the raptor training, stepping onto my hand. We're gonna get that really clean with no reaching and no screaming before we transition back onto the chair or the bed frame.
This is rad as heck. How could people not think that training cats is cool?
Right?
This is amazing. So cool. So cool. I am geeking out. You are so, that is so genius. Genius.
I can't help but think outside the box because I'm, one of those neurodivergent individuals, and I didn't realize until I was older that, the reason I can explain stuff better to people is because I think differently. I didn't even see lines to color in. I always like doing things differently. I think that's part of why I never got into dog training though, because it was popular and everybody trains dogs, so I don't. I only work with cats, and reptiles and fish and amphibians and invertebrates and pretty much anything that's not a dog.
I've wanted to do parrots because I think parrots are really cool. They're so smart, and parrot trainers are really just incredible with what they can do with their birds.
Absolutely.
They're amazing animals. Mm-hmm. I would love to bring one home, but speaking of earlier when we were talking about what pronouns we're using to refer to the animals outside, I can't quite commit to doing that because I am often encouraging Poutine to go and murder the birds. I mean, not actually go and murder them, but egging him on when he's watching the birds outside and being and I'm go plot their murder, Poutine. So I would feel weird being go murder him. Even if I'm referring to a bird and there's no way Poutine is actually going to go get to that bird.
It's tricky keeping prey species in your home and helping make sure that they don't have too much stress and fear in their life.
You have to take into account the well-being of the animals. You're the one who's deciding that they're there. They don't really have a choice. I know that there are the stories of the cat that just wanders into the home and exceptions, but generally, like, you are making the active choice to
Yep.
have the cat or the other animal being there. You're not, they don't just like fall out. Well, okay, again, sometimes they do fall out of the sky, but that's rare.
Definitely. And I've had to take that into consideration with the fish in my home. So I keep, you can see at least one of them in the background. I keep aquariums. I keep lids on my aquariums to keep the cats out of the tanks and to keep from having any accidents where they do jump on top of the tanks, which they do all the time. But I've also made sure that I've provided plenty of hiding spaces for the fish inside the tank so that they don't get traumatized and freak out too much when the cats are near the tanks. There's some exciting moments where the cats are like, oh, I want to get that, I want to get that. Especially with these rope fish. I don't know if you can see them back there. They kind of look like eels. So those are rope fish, and they're closer related to like a lungfish. So they're like a really ancient type of fish, but they look like a snake. And they have these little Dumbo ears that look so derpy and cute. I love them. My cat Jasper loves anything that resembles a snake, so he thinks they're fascinating. My cat Linus, on the other hand, thinks that they're the nope rope. So if they move, he's like, hell no, I'm out of here. He'll jump like 2 feet in the air, pee a little bit, and run away. So, I don't know, it must be similar to that like cat scared of the zucchini or cucumber type thing. Like, there's a reaction that goes, oh, this is a dangerous predator, and then there's a reaction that goes, this is prey, and for whatever reason, in Jasper's head, snakes are prey. And in both Abby and Linus's head, snakes are danger. They're like a no-go. So it's just interesting to see how that reaction is different. Linus, for his part, I will say, has gotten much better and has much less of a startle reflex now that he is on a medication. Both Linus and Jasper have had an ongoing tension of not getting along, and I've been living with that since they were 1.5 years old, so for like 9 years now. They've been, you know, not best friends and living in the same home, and we make it work by a combination of managing the environment and using medication to bring down everyone's level of stress and making sure that they have resources and all of their needs met. And as a result, it's been very helpful. We've tried to quit the medication a couple times and it's been not the best choice. So without the medication, I find that Linus has a startle reflex that's so intense that if he jumps on your lap and there's wrinkles in your blanket, and he was not expecting to see wrinkles in the blanket, he's like, what the like, he will startle and like bounce on your lap because there's a wrinkle in the blanket, and he's like, no, that's not supposed to be there. Or toast pops out of the toaster. Like the smallest little things, you know, he would like jump a foot off the ground. So he's very
I do get excited
startleable.
about toast, but like different reasons.
For
I
different
get excited about
reasons,
toast.
yeah, for different reasons. So he's gotten a lot better, and we found that just that managing that baseline level of stress has been very beneficial for him. And for Jasper, he tends to spray on things when he feels insecure about his territory, so that baseline level of stress management for him has been really important as well. And I've also modified my litter boxes, and I built a spray curtain. So we made like basically a little kitty urinal around our litter box. And he can still see everything that's around him because it's made out of clear plastic. So he can spray all over the back wall. And he's doing it in the litter box. So it meets his needs, makes him feel better, and it doesn't ruin my walls and my paint. Win-win.
You did a DIY version of that, but one of the things that I've seen that's been really cool over the last couple of years, and I feel like this has really exploded a lot lately, has been the cool cat stuff that's out there, where it's not just a ugly, disgusting neon pink cat tree. No offense if anyone out there, that's your aesthetic, you do you. But
Right.
it's not mine. I love all of the really nice looking options that there are,
Yes.
which I think is helping people better meet the environmental needs of their cats, though I
Yes,
still do see a
absolutely.
fair amount of room for improvement.
Agreed, 100%. Yep, there's still room for improvement, but it's so great to see more products and more companies offering up stuff like that for those who don't have access to a DIY option. I would like to see more high-back litter boxes on the market, and I want them to actually be 18 inches high. None of this 13 inch, because you put 3 inches of litter in there and you only got 10 inches. The cat's butt is going to be way above that if they actually spray.
Ones that like the cat can actually get into. It's not, 'cause I
Yes.
feel like people think their only options for that are top entry litter boxes.
Oh
which
God, yes, and that's not right for cats. They can't see who's coming.
Yeah, and also like they have to go, like they have to exercise before they go into the bathroom. It would be like
Ridiculous.
us having to like run up a flight of stairs, then run down another flight of stairs.
Or climb up over the top to get into an airplane bathroom.
There's a lot of stuff out there that is designed mostly for us and not really for the cats.
Have you seen any of my cartoons, the Would You Use This Bathroom litter box cartoons? There's one that I'm about to release that I haven't done yet. It'll probably come out in the next week or so. And it's advertising a little bit about how silly it is to try to have crystal litter that absorbs a maximum amount of urine. Just kind of like, would you buy a maximum capacity diaper so you didn't have to change your baby's diaper as often? Look, this one holds 3 gallons of pee. Right? Exactly. Like, that's disgusting. Who wants that? Get clumping litter and scoop it regularly, because otherwise, ew. Gross. Unsanitary.
Misty, what's the dumbest cat product you've ever seen? Is there something out
Oh
there
my
that just
God.
gives you nightmares or makes you cringe?
I think the main thing is just litter boxes that aren't designed with cats' needs in mind, because there's so many. Like, there's ones that look like a potted plant where they crawl in underneath and they
Oh, I
can't see
hate
anything
those.
that's around them. There's ones that look like a cabinet, they can't see anything that's around them. There's a top entry ones, there's the robotic ones, there's the lift and sift ones that have like the automatic rake that goes with it, and there's so many different ways that they're not actually addressing what cats need. There's also like some of the electronic toys. Some of them work for cats who are a bit more bold and brave, but some of them are just over the top. They're like flashing lights, loud noises, and flailing tentacles. It's like, that's scary to me. What do you think, a cat's gonna like it? Which ones were you gonna say that drive you nuts?
There's this litter box where you have to basically cut a hole in the wall and then it goes outside and then I think you have to go yeah, it's ridiculous.
No,
It's
that's terrible.
it actually I saw it and I was like, why would anyone pick this? This is less convenient than like a regular litter box. I get not wanting to have a litter box like in the middle of your living room. I get not wanting to have a litter box like right there in front of everything, but you really need to think about the needs of the cat because they're gonna use the litter box. I have a litter box right by my bed. I'm not just, yelling at people and being like, go put a litter box upstairs. I have one by my bed. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices and our cats are worth it.
What would you like to see what do you see as a product opportunity that somebody should
my God.
develop?
Misty. An automatic feeder that has a microchip like activated feature in it, like where it can be specific to the one cat, kind of like the microchip feeders but like combined with an auto feeder. Because there's one right now that has an RFID tag that you have to put on a collar, but if a cat doesn't like a collar, then that's not a viable option. I feel like that would solve so many problems for so many cats, because not everything done by a robot for cats is good, but automatic feeders are something that they're predictable and cats love that, and they remove you from the feeding component and they allow you, if like, for example, I was at a cat festival all weekend and I had to not be home to feed the dudes as often as I normally would, and I used my automatic feeder for feeding them and it was great. They're very good products. Generally, they still aren't a reason to leave your cats home alone for the weekend, because if they clog, that's bad, or if they don't go off, or if power goes out, or blah 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 blah, like any number of things. That's a bummer. I really wish that there was the combo out there. It would make things so much easier for so many of our clients that have that need, that like they just can't feed their cats the way that cats prefer, and if their cats are, munching on each other's food, because contrary to popular belief, cats do not like eating near other cats. Even when you're introducing them, it's...
Oh God, don't even start that.
Did I accidentally open Pandora's box? Other thing that's simpler. Shoe toys for cats. There are not a lot of options, and yet
True.
there are cats that like having things to like chew on.
Yeah.
I basically am like, okay, Silvervine sticks, and it's
Very
unfortunate because there's a need. Like there's such
absolutely.
a need for it.
I would like to see, related to that, destructible toys. because part of the prey sequence is, tearing stuff apart. But when you're paying $7 for a cat toy, you don't want to give them the opportunity to completely dismember it. One of our fellow cat trainer friends had this idea to kind of put some feathers into a toy so that they could pull the feathers out. And I think that's a cool idea because you could just put the feathers back into the ball. That'd be kind of cool. I'd also like to see like something made out of tissue paper that has non-toxic adhesive, or it's just twisted shut. It doesn't have any edible parts that shouldn't be eaten, kind of thing. Not like taped shut, because then they'd chew on and swallow the tape, or not like sewn shut, because then they'd rip out and swallow the string, and not with any non-edible glue. So I thought about maybe getting some tissue paper and using like paper mache, just like flour and water, and rolling up what would probably look like a little kitty with some catnip in it or some treats in it, and then just give it to them like a little pillow and have them rip it apart. But you'd have to be able to make it cheaply because it's going to be destroyed in a single play session.
I wonder if there's a way to make something edible that would be... I can't even think of like...
The cat's version of special brownies. Like a flaky crust with catnip in
yes.
the middle. Oh my god.
Or it's made out of like cat grass and like it ooh.
I tried that. I tried to make like a tamale out of cat grass and try to like twist the cat grass around some treats. That was a huge mess, epic fail. Like I didn't even get to present it to the cats before it completely fell apart. But it could maybe be something.
Can I share my secret for like fun cat cooking thing that...
Yes, absolutely.
For a couple of his birthdays, I marinated a chicken breast in catnip tea for Zoloft, and he loved it. Oh my god, he loved that.
That's crazy!
You just make a tea out of catnip, and you then take a glass container and you put a chicken breast in it and you soak it in there for like an hour or two, and then you bake the chicken breast, which please go look up instructions on how to do that.
Right.
I've been a vegetarian on and off since I was 5 or 6. I do not cook chicken normally, but I looked it up for him, which shows how much I love my cats, is that I'm willing to go outside of my comfort zone and try things for them. It was really fun.
That's cool. I've tried catnip tea before and they were not impressed, but maybe if it was fresh catnip herbs like rubbed onto a chicken breast, just kind of soaked in that, they might be down with that.
You could also do like a little bit of valerian, like, because that's often made into a tea.
I'm just not sure whether they would rub their face in it or eat it or both. That sounds potentially very messy and exciting. They'd probably love it.
You could also do like a little bit of nose work with that too, where you put like a regular chicken breast, like drugged chicken breast, and then maybe some like silver vine powder or something, and see like what does your cat like most.
I've tried doing preference tests with my cats with treats before. I found it to be extremely difficult because my cats are so excited about treats that whichever one they see first, they just lock onto it and then they just mow down the line. And I could remove the second one, but it was pretty clear that there was no preference. The only preference was, yes, please.
The preference was snacks. They were like, I prefer snacks over no snacks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you should have seen them. I even had it like, I was using a butter dish, like a cloche, to like cover over the treats. And I have this one treat on one end and one treat on the other, and I'd like switch their positions and everything, and I'd just like uncover. When it was Pearl's turn, she was just like, nom, 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 nom. She was like a little goat. It's crazy.
That reminds me of Poutine. He's like, I will eat anything in sight. He's very snacky. Zoloft used to like coming up to me and just sniffing broccoli whenever I would have broccoli. Not eating it. He did not want to eat it. He just wanted to sniff the broccoli. And
Okay.
I would open like a bag of broccoli, and like he would come running from the other room and would be like, where's the broccoli?
Wow, that's very interesting.
It was very like adorable and funny and quirky, and I miss him a lot. It was one of those things that I was like, this is so bizarre, but I love it. You know, if you want to sniff my broccoli, or he would also like sniffing salads. I called him my little salad sniffer.
That's adorable. I wonder if he was looking for anything in particular, or if he was just curious about the smells.
I don't know. I wish we could ask them sometimes.
Right?
What is the thing that you're getting from this?
Right?
Have I told you my theory about valerian root and foot odor?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so if anyone out there has a mass spectrometer and access to a microbiology lab and like an incubator of some sort, get in touch, because I have this theory that because cats like going and putting their faces in people's shoes or other things that smell really, really strongly, that I think that there is some sort of bacteria that creates foot odor that makes an iridoid that is the same, one of the ones that's in valerian root, that may have something to do with some of the odor, and I want to isolate some of the bacteria and foot odor and then take a mass spectrometer and see like what are the compounds that they are making. Is one of them also found in valerian root, or is it like chemically similar to it, like some of the chemicals that we see in catnip or silvervine or valerian root? For those who aren't aware, iridoids are the class of chemicals that cats respond to that gives them that kind of a catnip puts them in a good mood. There isn't any evidence out there that I'm aware of. So again, if anyone will let me play with their very expensive scientific equipment for a while, I will design the experiment. I will, we can be co-authors on it. Just get in touch. Let me know.
Totally. That sounds fascinating. I would be interested in reading that paper for sure.
I really hope that somebody out there has connections to a university with a mass spectrometer and will let me do this very, very important research. Also, if anyone is independently wealthy and would like to fund this study, just let me know. Again, like, I am fine with, putting a sponsorship on this study. That's cool. We're good. I want to do it. I want to swab people's feet and then see if the bacteria that grows from that swab causes my cats to go absolutely cuckoo bananas.
I bet you could get petri dishes and swabs. Probably couldn't get the mass spectrometer on your own, but you could get petri dishes and see if you got the same color fuzz.
Or, I wonder if there's like another way I could test like what chemicals are in there. Again, that's the only one I know is like the mass spectrometer or like gas chromat. Like, again, I don't have any sort of like equipment to test the molecular composition of anything.
Right.
So
yeah, that'd be hard.
This is a plea to any chemists out there that may have access to that type of equipment. Let's talk. Let's do it. I'll bring you on Class Act chats. We'll do more like Class Act science.
There you go.
We'll science together, but holler at me because I want to make this happen.
Totally. That'd be fascinating.
And we'll get to see some cats like rolling around. I bet Prozac would be willing to test some of this if we can like isolate a chemical, because he loves all of his, fun plants for cats. There's something about foot odor that seems to attract cats, and I suspect it's an iridoid.
Our cat Jasper likes to sniff eyeballs. I've never seen him stick his face in somebody's shoe or sniff somebody's feet, but he'll try to sniff and lick your eyes. He sometimes gets runny goop in his tear ducts, so I wonder if he's like trying to return the favor and trying to groom us. But he looks like he's just trying to sniff your eyeballs. It's pretty weird.
You might want to just be careful with that, because I know that like cat bites are like they can get really infected with some nasty bacteria. I'm just gonna assume that you don't want those bacteria getting in your eyeballs.
We don't let him lick our eyeballs. We just think it's pretty funny that he tries. He'll like stick his nose in your face, and the first thing he tries to do is sniff your eyeballs. It's weird.
That's really sweet. I mean, it's very kind of him to do that. He's like, I love you too, humans.
Right? You remove my eye boogers, maybe I'll remove your eye boogers. Like, with your scratchy tongue, how about let's not?
That seems like a good way to get a corneal abrasion.
Yeah, or pink eye.
There are so many different things I can think of that could go wrong with that scenario.
Yeah. Some cats chew people's hair, they try to lick and groom them. Nope, he wants to lick your eyeballs. And Piper wants to stick her face in Jessie's mouth, as if she's looking for him to cough up food like she's a baby bird. I'm like, what are you doing? There is no cat food in our mouths. Our family cat used to jump up, and he only did this once, but like, I was at home by myself and I was singing super loud. I think it was like singing along to the soundtrack of Wicked, and and I was belting it at one point, and I thought, of course, that I sounded fantastic. And I'm a pretty decent singer, but I was singing loudly enough that my cat found it irritating. And so he came and sat in front of me, and he stared up at me in a very menacing stare, and I kept on singing away, and he jumped up and like attacked my belly. He's just like, "You will stop now." I'm like, okay, sorry.
He feels the way that he feels about your singing the way that Poutine feels about Lana Del Rey.
Lana!
They all got their opinions, I guess.
As long as we're throwing out invitations there, I would also like to throw it out there that the invitation still stands, that if Lana is watching this, she's invited over to talk it out with Poutine, because I don't know what happened between them, but, you know, he just gets enraged every time I listen to her, which is unfortunate because I do like her music. I have to listen to it only in the car. Do your current cats have any strong musical opinions? Like, are they Swifties, or is there anything that you...
They would not have the opportunity to be Swifties because I can't stand listening to her music, unfortunately. Because one of the places I used to work would play it nonstop, and we had to listen to the Taylor Swift Christmas album all the way from November through April. So it was like, I got a little burned out on Taylor Swift. She has some great stuff, but yeah, no. We listen to a lot of different stuff around here, and they don't really care for the most part. As long as it's not too loud, they're fine with whatever. Classic rock, a little bit of Rodrigo y Gabriela, Lindsey Sterling. I would be bothered by stuff before they would. I've been wanting to do a preference test on music because I know that there are some apps that do like sounds for cats or songs for cats that are supposed to be soothing and relaxing. And so I was going to play little pieces of that and then little pieces of other types of music. But the problem would be you couldn't make a YouTube video out of that because every little piece of it would be copyrighted. So what would you even do? You know, take out all the sound and be like, believe me, there's classic rock playing in this clip. Believe me, there's cat music playing in this clip, and then see what the cat's body language was like. It'd be fascinating, though, to see.
Again, if anyone happens to own rights to a lot of music and they want to let Misty use it, I think it sounds like she would be willing to talk with you about some sort of like sponsorship, or if there's like a record label out there or something that wants to do a viral campaign. Again, Misty is more than willing to get in touch with you.
I might just do an experiment for my own interest and then share my results with you, and you can do an experiment with yours. What kind of music do your cats enjoy?
You know, we have found a couple things. Poutine does seem to like Charlie XCX. He is a brat. And I mean that in a like Charlie XCX brat, not a like disparaging way towards him.
Right. I don't even know who that is. I have such a narrow range of musical experience.
She had this album last year that was like this lime green, and it said Brat, and it was like the Brat Summer.
Nice.
She is delightful, very, very, very delightful, and Poutine finds her delightful, apparently. I'll play Apple and he'll purr, and I...
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Poutine also likes Fantogram, which I am like, okay, I appreciate that you like Fantogram. We can jam to this together. Beyonce, he and I will dance to Texas Hold'em together. Speaking of videos and like videos being out there, what are some ways that people can responsibly share information about cats or cat behavior, or where can they go to find information that's accurate? Because that's one of the things that we talked about at the beginning, was people being thirsty for this knowledge, but it not always being great.
I think one of the most important things for people to look for that I feel like is valuable is if the person says on their channel and at the start of every video who they are, and just the tiniest little bit about why they have something valuable to offer. So like at the start of all my videos, I'll say, I'm Misty, I'm a certified cat behavior consultant and fear-free trainer. So that just gives a little bit of gone through the effort to actually seek out education, and I do know what I'm talking about. As opposed to just, I'm Misty and my family's had cats my whole life. That's a valuable perspective, but that's not a professional opinion. And what we need more of is professional voices giving educated information, and they're going to be the ones that say there is no easy answer, it depends, every cat's an individual, but that message needs to get out there, because otherwise if all we're hearing from is my family's had cats my whole life and they never had problems, they never had an issue with the top entry litter box, then people are going to get more of the message of my cat's got problems, or there's something wrong with my cat and I need to fix them, or maybe they're not the right cat for me. And so we need, I think, more professional voices. That's my opinion. And I think
agree
that
completely.
people should look for that. People should look for that when they go to look for information, when they go to look at a channel or they watch somebody's content. There should be something at the beginning that says, you know, hi, I'm so-and-so. I have such and such certification. I'm this type of trainer, and that's why this matters to me. Some of the influencers that I really appreciate the stuff that they put out there. I really appreciate the work that Tabitha Kucera does, consistently talking about fear-free handling and how it's better not only for the cats and dogs in our care, but for the people and the veterinary technicians and everybody who's interacting with them. So I really appreciate the content that she puts out there, and I also appreciate the fact that she emphasizes that we're not shaming anybody, because and we can all learn to do things better. And we probably all did some pretty stuff when we were first learning how to share our lives with cats and dogs. Like, we've all done some stuff that there's
awkward.
No way we would do now. So I love her stuff. Of course, Michael Delgado, great content, you know, lots of wonderful stuff to share. Pam Johnson-Bennett, like, kind of one of the founding mothers of cat behavior consulting, really inspired a lot of us. Her content's consistently good. I'm always resharing Laura Cassidy's stuff, good content. And of course,
Love
your
Laura.
content, my content, you know, we've got a lot of really wonderful cat professionals that are out there. There are some more popular figures that aren't necessarily as professional, and I think for the most part what they're putting out there is also largely good, but I think sometimes it gets taken with the same level of credibility because people don't know any better, and because those figures are so popular, you know, it's got the big name on it, that people are just going to take their stuff and run with it and not necessarily apply it in the most conscientious way.
Even separating from like the really big names, there's a lot of the like smaller influencers that some of them are really good and they put out a lot of really good content and it's well researched and they defer to like experts. It's not just a clickbait trying to make things easily digestible type of content. And then there's some that I just want to launch myself into the sun when I see their content because it's not great, or they try and justify using methods of managing behavior that are stressful or unkind to the cats. I wish people would not just be like, oh yeah, they said that I should use this, you know, spike mat for my cats, or like I should, you know, use the motion activated air canisters, which I make it no secret how much I hate those. It's something where it's like, you know, that's based on causing your cat stress. Like that's how it works, is they have to be stressed out, and a lot of the times there are much, much, much better alternatives that do not involve that. Those absolutely need to be the things that we focus on, and recognizing that cats deserve to feel safe in their homes, in their environment. Not all advice out there, not all content, no matter how catchy and how well it's packaged, is good content.
And I think we really gotta build each other up as cat professionals, because it's a growing industry. I don't think it does anyone any good to have a competitive mindset about it. I think it's much more helpful if we, you know, link to each other's sites, promote each other's content, put handouts and infographics out there and educational videos that are in our own voices, because the more of this positive influence we can get out there, the more we can sway the tide and get people to look at their relationship with their cat as actually a valuable relationship that's worth investing in, as opposed to where it used to be, where all of this started, of just like, oh, I have this decorative creature that lives in my home that should have no needs. How dare it could have any needs? It.
Yeah, it. It's so critical that people try and figure out, how do I make my cat happy, and how do I give my cat enough stimulation, and how do I work on training my cats in a way that's kind to the cat. Like, I like James Henderson, our friend James. His content is so good, and it's like his training. It's so good. It's very impressive, and he does a really good job of explaining. Like, here's like some of the why. It's very nerdy, and I mean nerdy as a positive, not a negative.
Right.
Because I absolutely nerdy here. I'm glad that people want to share their knowledge about cats, which is part of why I started doing this, is because it's something that trying to pump up people's voices and help get the good word out that no, there are people who can help you and they really understand cats, and be nice to your cat, it's the better way to go.
I like that. That could be a slogan. Be nice to your cat, it's a better way to go.
It benefits you to be nice to your cat. Ultimately,
it feels good. And it makes your whole relationship better. So I'm curious, Joey, you're an influencer on social media too. What do you see?
I wouldn't call me an influencer.
I think you are. If you're on social media and you have any followers, I think that makes you an influencer.
Okay, fair.
And you've influenced some of my views as well, so that makes you an influencer. There you go. Whether you like it or not, you're an influencer. But my question was, as an influencer, how do you combat some of the pervasive misinformation and products and practices that are bad for cats without just becoming this bitter, angry human who's always complaining about other people and the way that they do everything wrong? So tell me about that. How does that play out for you?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different approaches. I mean, one could be you could decide I'm going to be combative and I'm going to be angry and pissed off and I'm going to start drama, which is not my style. There's definitely, again, I'm not going to name names, but there's a few people out there whose accounts, every time I see their stuff, I just want to just scream because it's so inaccurate and it's harmful to cats. I've decided that's not my approach because I just do not have the energy to be constantly getting into fights with people about things. I am a little bit snarky at times, and so it's something I do have to tone it down a little bit, but I have decided that I want to focus on sharing the correct information and sharing the correct information based on the science that we have and takes the cat's needs into account too. It doesn't just prioritize, the preferences of the humans, because in a lot of cases, they really are preferences. They're not necessarily needs. It's preferences in a way that helps people try and make better choices and really emphasizing, hey, this is how it benefits you. I've really tried to make that very intentional where I focus a lot on how it benefits you to be nice to your cat and not just the needs of the cat. Because it would be great if everyone were like, yeah, I'm going to do this because the cat needs it or the cat likes it. And that's not how everyone operates, and we just try and reframe it a little bit differently. And I also try and make my content fun, where I try and make, a lot of dumb jokes, and I make it so that we're talking about poutine and Prozac and they're being silly, and it's something that I try and make it not as dry as it could be. It hopefully doesn't feel painful learning and people are actually interested in it. I think we need to do a better job of trying to make some of the information more appealing to a general audience as opposed to being you should train your cat to be able to take pills willingly when I would argue you should do that. Not everyone's gonna buy into that, so it benefits you to train your cats to take pills willingly because you will do less work long term and you will have less stress at a time when you're really stressed if your cat is sick, and it will be easier and it's not as much work as it sounds like. I know that historically it's been this fight that people make it seem to be, that you have to fight your cat and shove it down their throat. It can be totally not a big deal. We need to try and make it be more things like that.
Because not everybody is going to automatically be like us and be like, yes, of course we're going to jump on board and do whatever our cats need. That'd be nice, but I think a lot of people that are of that mindset have already become cat behavior consultants. Definitely reaching people where they are by making it more accessible, making it fun, not making it so dry and academic. There's a place for that, absolutely. And there's times when nerding out on the detailed side of training is fun. But when you're working with clients and you're putting out content to be influential.
Totally. And
it
doesn't have to. I know some people are like, well, you don't put out consistently boring academic dry content. Well, whatever, like that's fine. I sometimes I do things just because Poutine did something cute, or like my thing with Prozac and his cult that he runs, the cult of the leggy. Like, that's just silly. Or I always joke about Prozac claiming to be a financial advisor, but the only piece of advice he ever gives out is to buy Costco stock, and that you really, should actually talk to a financial professional instead of listening to a cat, and that I keep trying to tell him that, that's a regulated industry, he could get in trouble, and he's like, but I'm cute, and also you really should just go out and instead of worrying about what I'm doing, just go buy some more Costco stock. And I'm like, Prozac, we just talked about this. I do silly things like that. And also just for the record, that is not actual financial advice. I just need to say that again, Prozac does not know what he's talking about. He's cute, but he does not understand what the stock market is. I'm sure he doesn't even know what Costco is. Again, sometimes just doing silly things like that for funsies is necessary because it makes it more relatable. And then later on, I can, talk about something that's more dry, but I can relate it back to something fun. I could say that I could be clicker training Prozac, and every time I click, I buy a share of Costco stock. That would be really expensive. That would be a really expensive clicker
really
training
expensive.
session.
Keep it really short.
It would be really short. Eventually, I would run out of money. We would not be able to do any clicker training. Again, you could do something goofy like that. You don't have to be serious all the time, and you can sneak in some learning to some of the fun.
I'm all about the sneaky learning. 25 years in teaching has definitely taught me that educational content could be more digestible when you sneak it in with something fun.
It doesn't have to be miserable.
It doesn't have to feel like you're doing a worksheet in a classroom.
No, you're not sitting there just doing multiplication tables. I don't want to take up your entire evening here, so I have one final question that I need to ask you, and it's
Yes.
important. It is the single most important question from our entire time together tonight, and it's very serious, and it's going to follow you for the rest of your life, so make sure that you take this question very seriously. Misty,
I feel like there should be a seriousness meter on our screen that shows
it's gonna go way
how
up to
silly...
the full end, full meter is full of seriousness here. There's no joking around with this question.
Try to answer this with a straight face.
Misty, are you more of a Poutine or more of a Prozac?
Oh gosh. Can you tell me the top 3 personality traits of each of them?
Poutine is loud, and he is playful, and he is loud. Prozac is anxious, and he is opinionated, and he is very sweet.
Probably.
And he
Prozac,
has the
then.
world's cutest meow. I should add that too.
I would be more of a Prozac. I'm more of the anxious, introverted individual that I have opinions. I'm not loud, and I'm not always playful. So yeah, more of a Prozac.
That's understandable. At some point, I'm going to make an actual sign or something and keep track of what everyone says, because I'm asking this of all my guests. I want to keep track of who gets picked most often, and I kind of wonder if because a lot of cat people tend to be more introverted, if they're going to pick Prozac more, but Poutine has actually had, not everyone is picking Prozac. We're going to see here.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been super fun to talk about views on cats and culture and some of these fluffier things that don't always get talked about but are just as important as how we talk about our cats and how we view cats. And hopefully next time we meet to talk about this in, a year or 2 or however long, we see a shift in people getting more into cooperative care, and that there are more voices out there. Misty, where can people find you? Where can people find you on the internet if they want to follow you? Do you have an IG or a website or like an Etsy shop that you want to plug or something, like go wild here. The only thing that you can't plug is any financial schemes because Prozac will not let me refer anyone to any financial services other than his, even though again you should not listen to Prozac for any financial advice. He doesn't always talk about.
So my main website is fellowcreaturespets.com. I have a YouTube channel, that's where all my stuff goes, and my silly videos end up on both Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to see some of the Silly Humans videos and the Would You Use This Litter Box kind of cartoons, those go on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm gonna just edit in a lot of this here, so I'm gonna just.
Fantastic! I figured that's what the gesturing was for.
Fabulous. Okay, Misty, thank you again.
Absolutely, it's been so much fun having time to talk about this stuff and the changes we're seeing in the way people relate to cats. It's wonderful stuff.